Government, the Auditor General's team, the Ministry of Finance, and the municipal corporations. Madam PS, can I just invite you to introduce, oh, sorry, before you do that, let me just take the reading and confirmation of the minutes, members. I'll just go page by page. Any corrections on page 1? Page 2.
One copy, but one this week, you know, more there.
Page 3.
Convent Mills.
4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11 and 12. If there are no corrections, could someone move for the confirmation of the minutes? Member Cuthbert Flynn, seconded by member. You can just release your mic for me, member. Okay. All right, thank you. Madam PS, could I invite you to introduce yourself and the team from the Ministry of Local Government who are here today? Just check if it's on. Yes, go ahead.
Good morning. That sounds like it's on.
Yes, just bring it closer to you so we can hear.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee, also members of the Auditor General's Department and from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, my own CEOs and supporting staff, and my own senior directors and principal finance officer with me this morning, and also the support staff in the house this morning. A very pleasant good morning to you once more. I am Marcia Henry Martin, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Today, I am supported by my principal finance officer sitting to my right, Mrs. Anisha Gordon McFarlane. I'm also supported by my senior ICT Senior Director ICT, Mr. Andre Gale, as well as Senior Director Agency Liaison, Mrs. Desireen Williams Taylor. I am, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Owen Brown, Director in the PRF, representing the Senior Director, Mr. Rupert Price. We also have CEOs from each local authority who are also supported in some instances by their support staff. Would you like them to introduce themselves, sir?
Yeah, I'll get in a second. I'll first invite Mr. McAdam, Deputy Auditor General, to introduce his team, and then the Ministry of Finance, and then I'll ask the municipal corporations to introduce themselves. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Morning, PS and your team, and Ministry of Finance, members of the Ministry of Finance's team. I am Marlon McAdam, Deputy Auditor General, and with me today are Mrs. Carolyn Lewis, Deputy Auditor General, Principal Auditors Ms. Tessa Ashman and Ms. Athleen Thomas, and they are supported by Directors of Audit Mr. Ryan Wilmot and Ms. Barbara Daly. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Blake.
Morning, Chairman, members, and colleagues. Hope Blake, Deputy Financial Secretary, Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, and with me is Barrington Thomas, Principal Director in the Accounting and Financial Policy Branch of the Ministry.
Okay. Mr. Hill, I'm going to start with you simply because you are closest to me.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Chairman, members of the Auditor General and the Ministry of Finance. My name is Robert Hill, Chief Executive Officer, the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation.
Kevin Blair, Chief Financial Officer, Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation.
Romeo Daly, Chief Financial Officer, Hanover Municipal Corporation.
Let's just keep going down the line.
Marvelyn Pittle, Chief Executive Officer, St. Catherine Municipal Corporation.
Morning, Philroy Richards, Chief Financial Officer,
Manchester Municipal Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. Ethelyn Douglas, Chief Executive Officer, the St. Mary Municipal Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. Andrea Powell Wallace, Director of Finance, St. Mary Municipal Corporation.
Morning, everyone. Errol Liebert, CEO, St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Stevens Marshall. I'm the Director of Finance of St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin McIndo, CEO, St. Thomas Municipal Corporation.
Ingrid Palmer, Chief Financial Officer, Trelawney Municipal Corporation.
I'm David Gardner, Chief Executive Officer, Hanover Municipal Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Harrison, CEO of the Trelawney Municipal Corporation.
Trelawney, you weren't in Manchester? Oh, you moved now?
Last time I was here, I represented Manchester.
Oh, so you get a promotion.
A pleasant good morning, everyone. Marlette Wellington, Acting CEO for the Westmoreland Municipal Corporation.
Pleasant morning, everyone. My name is Marcine Black-Jackson, Chief Financial Officer for the Westmoreland Municipal Corporation.
My name is Rohan Blake. I'm the Chief Executive
You don't
Officer
remember what
from the
you are.
Clarendon Municipal Corporation. And behind me is Mr. Wayne Brown, my CFO, and also Ms. Daly is the Director of Final Accounting.
Morning, everyone. Jomani Robinson, CEO at Portland Municipal Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. Maxine Spite Davis, Director of Finance, Portland Municipal Corporation.
Morning, everyone. Courtney Campbell, Acting CEO, Portmore.
Morning, everyone. Terry Daly, Director of Financial Accounting, Portmore.
And I see Montego Bay in the back. There's no space for you? No? So that means you need to go back home then. There's no other mic there? We need to find, it's better you come on this side because, come over on this side and sit where there's a mic because you will have to contribute in the meeting. This is one. Okay. All right, Mr. McAdam, let me invite you to just provide an overview of the audit of the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development and the Municipal Corporation. No, oh, sorry. Let me just, before I invite you, members would note there were 2 emails sent yesterday in relation to the Ministry of Agriculture. The response to the audit came in on Friday at 4 o'clock. The process that we go through, once an audit is received, the Auditor General's Department has to verify those responses before we can take the team appearing here. They indicated that they didn't have sufficient time to verify the answers, so we would have to take the Ministry of Agriculture at a later date. So that's why they're not here today. But I'll just invite Mr. McAdam before to just explain your process so members have a full understanding.
Thank you, Chair. I believe it's useful for us to probably start at the beginning of the process. Now, at the end of every audit fieldwork exercise, we have what is called an exit interview with the management of each entity. Now, at that meeting, we present our preliminary findings for discussion and feedback. After that process, we verify the feedback provided and prepare a report, a draft report. That report would include the matters discussed at the exit where the findings remain outstanding, they are unresolved. In cases where the reports are to be submitted to Parliament, or in the case of the annual report, when we send the reports, the draft reports, to the clients and they respond, we would prepare what is called a management response matrix. That matrix would include our findings, their response, the outcome of our verification, and what we intend to publish in the final report. So that is sent to the client, the MDA. In the case of the Ministry of Agriculture, that process took place. However, the response that came last Friday required additional verification in order for us to have a productive meeting. So we thought it best to give us sufficient time to conduct that verification before we can have a full review of the matters relating to the Ministry of Agriculture.
And let me just add as well that the Parliament provides a 4-week period between when a report is tabled in the House and when the entity appears. And we do that so that in spite of the opportunities provided by the Auditor General, the entity has sufficient time after the final report is tabled in Parliament to prepare its own response. So I'm explaining that mainly for the public, where you may see a lag between the tabling of a report and the entity appearing in the Parliament. And that lag is to provide an opportunity for the entity to respond and the Auditor General to verify the responses. It's an administrative thing, but we believe in the interest of natural justice, because in spite of no final report should be a surprise to any entity, given the process that the Auditor General employs. But once it is tabled, they have 4 weeks to respond. So when we get here, we can have meaningful discussions on the reports. Huh? I can't hear you, Pierce. No, speak in the mic.
I said that sounded like I needed some more time.
No, man. Well, let me add. The annual report, which is tabled which is done at the end of each financial year, will raise issues related to particular ministries, agencies, and departments. Now, coming out of the annual report, we invite members can indicate entities that they would like to call back. Now, in your case, PS, because of the history of the lack of appropriation accounts, that's why your ministry is here. But based on the reports I have seen, you're making some progress. Right, yes. So we'll give you an opportunity to indicate how you are going and the progress that you're making. But I'll ask Mr. McAdam to just give an overview of the audit first.
Right, Chair. Just a quick clarification. In relation to the municipal corporations, it's their financial statements and not appropriation accounts, right?
Okay.
Just for clarity. Now, this review, Mr.
I'm
Chair.
sorry, before you go, I think it may be important to explain why having the financial statements are important for your purposes.
Well, the law requires each MC to prepare financial statements and submit to us for audit.
Right, and basically you are unable to provide an opinion on a municipal corporation without the financial statements.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct, Chair.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, yes. So in relation to the Ministry of Local Government, there are two major areas that are before us today, Chair. The appropriation accounts of the Ministry of Local Government and the matters relating to the financial statements of the municipal corporation. Now, we audited the appropriation accounts of the Ministry of Local Government for the period 23-24, and we found a generally satisfactory state of affairs. There was one area that we found that there was a need for improvement in that area, which is the management of project funds. And since the audit, the ministry has taken steps to strengthen the management of that area. So we are fairly satisfied in terms of the operations of the ministry itself, in terms of its financial management. Now, in relation to the municipal corporation, and you would have mentioned, Chair, about the history, we are moving from a situation where we are still having challenges in terms, when we say we, the municipal corporations are still having challenges preparing and submitting their statements. Last year, this time, Chair, you would recall, we had the same discussion, and at that time, there were 86 financial statements outstanding. As at the date of this annual report, the figure has increased to 95. And so we are not really
making
significant progress as we would want in terms of the preparation and submission of the statements.
And that 95 would include the fact that come this year,
one additional
another
year.
set would have become due.
Well, this 95 is up to March 2025.
Okay.
So it doesn't include 2026, which is not yet due.
Okay.
Right. So come July, which is when the statements are due, the financial year ends March, and they have 4 months within which to submit. Another set of statements will become due. Now, the delays, I'm sure the PS will elaborate, but there are many factors contributing to the delays, and 2 primary factors are the lack of the financial management system that is needed to prepare and present the financial statements in a IPSAS, which is the standard required, IPSAS compliant format, and the MCs continue to have challenges in preserving and presenting the supporting records for the financial statement. Those are the main challenges that we have in relation to those, Mr. Chair. And I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, thank you. PS, I'll invite you first, and then you can provide a perspective on the ministry, some of the systemic issues. I see that there's a IPSAS, right? Steering committee, and you've been having meetings and seemingly making some progress in that regard, but I'll invite you to give us your update.
Thank you, Chairman.
Just bring the mic closer to you so we can hear.
Thank you, Chairman. Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Right. So I just want to acknowledge before I give the update, 2 CEOs who are, you could say, new kids on the block. They weren't here last year. Miss Marlette Wellington, who is the newest assigned CEO to Westmoreland, and Mr. Kevin McIndoe, who joined the service in September, I believe, of last year. So these are 2 new CEOs for St. Thomas. And Courtney is acting for Ravel Morris, who is on vacation leave. So yes, as Mr. McAdam has updated, we continue to not yet have implemented the financial accounting software. However, we are very, very far advanced.
There's a drum corps going on outside? Yeah?
As you...
Or is that sports day? Okay, all right.
Oh, and today's Speech Day too, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe they are doing something.
Let me just make sure. Hansard, you hearing clearly? The PS? Okay, all right.
Yes. So we're very far advanced with that process. So when I hinted that a little bit more time, because we were hoping to have come here today to say the procurement is finalized and approved. As we speak, from the update provided, the last presentation, we indicated that it would have been sent to the PPC. It was in fact sent to the PPC, sir, but we were eventually advised of an adjustment in the GCT status of the proposed bidder, so that...
All right, PS, I'm going to ask you for the benefit of, we have a number of new members. I may be a little familiar with the history. Just explain what that system is, what it does, and why it is important.
Okay, so the system is a software that would be utilized within the accounts unit to allow for the input of data, the analysis of financial data, and to allow it to prepare the statements in a systematic manner. So you won't see a St. James or a St. Anne or St. Thomas having different formats. It's a systematic approach to presenting the financial statements in a more efficient manner. Another factor that Mr. McAdam didn't mention, that was mentioned about 2 years ago, was also the staffing structure. which we had given the commitment that that would be addressed. So we do have the approved structure now for all local authorities. So we believe with the recruitment and selection exercises that are underway within each local authority with the system that we expect to be implemented by the first month of the new financial year. I'm saying first month, sir, because up to Friday, I know the committee was reviewing to present the report to me for a decision. It has not yet hit my desk. And so I anticipate that very shortly that will be with me so that we can do the decision. So it's no longer based on the threshold. It's no longer a matter for the Public Procurement Commission to deliberate on because of the adjustment in the GCT status. What has been proposed has come below the threshold for what is required to be sent to the PPC. So that I'm expecting to come to me shortly. And thereafter, we anticipate rolling out that system. Complementary to that, because I believe that the last meeting...
Can I ask you, what is, given that you have 14 municipal corporations, what is the implementation rollout time frame after acquisition of the software?
Right. Okay, so let me kind of go to a schedule I sent. So the schedule does not say which MC first, if that is what you're asking.
No, but how long it would take for all 14 to have the software on their, whether it's on their computer systems and to be able to use it?
Right, so I had submitted on as appendix to chairman and members an ERP draft implementation plan because this is still subject to approval by the steering committee. So overall, it would be approximately 6 months. There's a 1 month projection for initiation, a 4 month for configuration, and then development and integration, testing and validation another month. My IT person is advising me that approximately 6 months.
So if you said first month, so let's conservatively say you by May, right? We're talking about at 6 months, that's what, about November, December, before all should have that system up and running in each municipal corporation.
Provided they also have the systems, as in the computers, because remember, I was going to go to that too.
Okay.
At the last meeting, you asked whether we were doing that concurrently, and I'd said yes. So as we speak, we are procuring the computers to be assigned specifically to the accounts department, one specifically for the preparation of the financial statements that will host the software itself. And we anticipate that to be concluded before the end of this financial year as well, because that has already started.
And the procurement process includes support from the vendor throughout this entire implementation phase?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, sorry. Member Bunting, you wanted to ask a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I haven't been on the PSC for many years, so I'm a little behind in terms of the last year's attendance by the ministry, but I'm not clear on what the expectation is for this software, because when I look at the outstanding statements, I would like to understand, based on the existing systems, why is Manchester up to only the current year that's due is outstanding, while other municipal corporations are 10 years behind. They're all on the same basis, I assume, without any new software. So, and my own experience, not just in the public sector, but in the private sector, is that these new ERPs, or whatever they call them, sometimes only complicate the processes. Sometimes the implementation sets back the actual delivery of the statements. But my bigger question is, when we look at that first page, why would a Manchester just only have the current years that's due which is the 24-25 outstanding, while others have 10 years outstanding.
Yes, and we're going to get to that. In fact, when the CEO stood up from Manchester, the reason I said he was promoted, I do remember he was the most up-to-date counsel the last time. So for your good deeds, you get sent somewhere else to ensure you bring those up to date. But you are correct. That is an issue, and I'll ask the PS first, but we're going to go around to each municipal corporation because they have unique challenges.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. And just to note for the committee, Mr. Harrison, yes, was at Manchester. Mr. Palmer, who was in Trelawney, actually retired. So it's a transfer, and someone else was promoted, sir, just for the record. So yes, it's a very good observation. It's a combination of factors, and as the chairman says, each CEO can speak to it. But one of the main prevailing factor is the absence of records in some of the MCs, which the Auditor General would have spoken to. Others also had expressed challenges with the staffing structure, which is why I made reference to it. And so what Manchester did was to employ, outsource the activity, and that is something now the other MCs are also pursuing if you look on the individual presentations for some of them. So it's a combination of factors, and they'll speak to it individually when their time comes.
Member Bunting, with the mic system, you have to keep on your mic because there are two other colleagues who had, all right, Member Gordon and Member Brown. I know, well, they would have to release their mics for you to do the follow. But what I would ask, though, we're going to invite the municipal corporations to provide, yeah. All right, well, they would have to release, all right, go ahead.
It took so long, my train of thought. But the general excuse, or excuse that's repeated about the lack of the original data or documents to verify what. These missing documents will not be cured. So we have to find a way to close the accounts, even if they're, if a notation is made that, the Auditor General can't verify the accuracy. But at some point, you have to close it and move on, because if the records are missing, year after year after year, at some point they're just never going to emerge. So we have to find a way to close, or we'll come every year with a longer and longer period outstanding.
All right, I'm going to, before members, let me ask the Auditor General's Department in terms of how you treat with matters like that, because I know that's an issue for some of the corporations where they simply can't find the records. They probably will never be able to find the records. And I don't know how you treat with that from your perspective.
Mr. Chair, so when the statements are submitted and the municipal corporations indicate that they're unable to provide the records to support the financial statements, we modify the audit opinion. So in previous years, we issued several disclaimers of opinions, and except for opinion, meaning in other words, layman terms, you don't give a clean audit report. So that is the approach that we have been taking once the statements are submitted. But if they are not submitted, then we can't proceed with any opinion.
All right. I'm just going to take, some members had their mics on, Member Gordon and Member Brown and Member Miller, and then I'm going to invite the corporations to give their updates. Member Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Thanks to the respective corporation for your service. I understand that you operate under extreme trying circumstances. But I want to go to the key findings from the Auditor General's report that suggests that there's 95 outstanding accounts, and also the delay in implementing the accrual account system to the extent where the software is also missing. I'm wondering if it is as a result of that software why the proliferation of the missing accounts. And also, I am very concerned about the absence of accounting record. And as Member Bunting stated, we cannot continue to say that these accounts are not properly submitted, when in your own admission you said that you modify some of your findings. So my final question, Mr. Chairman, is how do we move forward with the current situation? What is the best suggestions from the Auditor General Department to bring some relief to the municipal corporation having this sort of audit findings?
Well, what he said before is that in cases where there's simply no records, they will do an audit but issue a disclaimer. And in essence, a disclaimer is saying that they cannot provide a proper qualified opinion on what is there. If that's correct, Mr. McAdam? Yeah. All right, just say it for the record.
So in cases where the records don't exist, we can't provide an opinion. So that is what a disclaimer is saying. So in the audit report, we will say we are unable to provide an opinion. In cases where some records are available, we would indicate in the report that except for these missing records, the accounts are true and fair. So that has been the approach taken for statements that have been submitted. Now, these 95 are statements that have not been submitted to us for audit. So we are unable to even start an audit in relation to these 95 statements. But in terms of the way forward, I believe that is what the PS is outlining in her response.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, if you will. It is rather challenging for me as a member to observe this absence of records. And I'm grappling with how and what would precipitate this level of outstanding record keeping. Is it staff? Is it staffing issue? Is it software issue? I would just like to know what is the cause.
All right, so Member Gordon, I'm going to allow, because it varies, as we indicated, Manchester is the most up-to-date and they have taken steps. There are other corporations that have different issues, but I'm going to ask them as we go through to indicate where they are, what their challenges are, and how we move forward. All right, Member Brown.
Yeah, Chairman, I wanted to just understand if we were at that point as yet in terms of going into the specifics.
Yeah.
Because I too am concerned about because it's a theme that I see permeating through all of the municipalities, missing records. So I don't know if we are there yet in terms of the timing of the meetings where we're allowed to ask those questions.
Well,
so
what I would do first is allow them to present, because the issues are not, while there are some systemic, right, there are some systemic, but it's clear that some corporations have managed better than others. And so we want to understand the systemic, the ministry is trying to deal with the systemic through the acquisition of the software program. But it doesn't solve the issue, obviously, if you don't have physical records, receipts, et cetera, et cetera. You can't, the best system in the world can resolve those issues. But I would, if there are specific questions, I'd ask you to hold it until the corporations will go through.
I will hold my specific for the corporation. But in terms of the permanent secretary and the ministry, I see the schedule that is there. I hear the planned acquisition of the software to help to address the issue. But 15 years. You have one municipality that has not produced a record for 15 years. Oversight for the ministry. How does that go unattended? No intervention from the ministry. I just want to understand the ministry's oversight, and there are quite a few, 15, 11, 10, 9. what is the ministry's role in, even before we get to hearing what the municipalities are advancing as the reasons, what is the ministry's role in oversight, in ensuring that there is accountability coming from the municipality, because it is a glaring issue. And what confidence, yes, I hear the issue of procuring the software and that it will help to address and there's a schedule. But based on the fact that we have had this challenge for, leading up to 15 years, what confidence do you have? Because I see where, you said that by December, certain municipalities would have cleared. But the record does not indicate that we should have that confidence based on the history. So I'd like some clarity on that.
Okay, member. So historically, it was way worse. I'll start there. I don't remember the number, way worse, much worse than what we are seeing now. So we have been incrementally addressing it by providing the necessary support to the local authorities. But the points being made regarding the record is one that is also addressed through the law, wherein if the records are destroyed by law, you're required to report it. So the powers that be would have already known beforehand that there is missing record. Like for the case of St. Catherine, where Mocha went in, took the record, that is a challenge. And there are different challenges. If you just allow me, member, because yes, I see you turned it on the mic, right? So like that would be an issue. So I'm just clearing the air when it comes to record, that there is an avenue.
Go ahead,
There
PS.
is an avenue to report missing records. So that's the first step. And what the ministry does in that instance is historically, the team would remember the auditors that we would have written to the local authorities to remind them of what is the requirement in law, that is the oversight given in terms of the missing records, to report it immediately, and the steps that are to be taken following those actions. Then, historically, based on what we were seeing, we had got support through, I don't remember the name of the project, Mrs. Blake, but we got support that saw even training being done. So if you look on Appendix 2, you'd have seen a number of things that were ticked off as already done, including training. What had lagged was the software, which is what we were reporting on, as well as the revised structure. As you know, sometimes things take a little time to be implemented, like the review of the organization, 14 MCs, and to come up with a structure. So the oversight the ministry gave in that regard was to give the support to the local authorities to ensure that this restructuring exercise was done and completed so that they could all have all the posts that were called out as the posts that were needed. We also had undertaken some training. Mark Hughes was very preliminary. We are recognizing and have recognized that we will have to retrain. And just talking with Westmoreland last week, I know some of the MCs are doing it individually because there was a training of trainers, but we recognize at some point in the delivery, we will have to retrain. That is oversight again. We have also done internal restructuring in the ministry to strengthen our agency liaison and monitoring unit. That unit has a specific role with the PRF branch, the Parochial Revenue Fund branch, to provide the oversight for supporting the MCs. If the MCs require ongoing training or interventions and they ask for that, that is given. Where they ask for financial support, as some have done, we have sought to support them accordingly. This is why we're able to support the ones who have, for example, from the report, indicated that they have server challenges. Those are being addressed. So in every aspect where you might need, where you see a gap and it is reported, we do our best to support. If the finances are not there, the Ministry of Finance will tell you, well, the unit that does that is not here this morning. But when we do write to them, we get the support, albeit not in one go, but incrementally we see that, and we have seen that support too, even in the last calendar year into January in relation to the staffing. So overall, it's a composite integrated approach to support the MCs. Mark you, there are challenges that are still prevailing, because coming out of the last steering committee, I think if you have looked on the minute, you might see something jump out. So we have identified additional challenges. That's another way we support. The steering committee is comprised of all the CEOs, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, what am I missing? And the PRF branch. And that committee is designed to interrogate the issues, to be proactive, and to design strategies that we would like to implement to further support the MCs.
Thank you very much, PS. One final question directed to with your permission, Chairman. So the other theme I see permeating through all the municipalities is that the issue of the absence of the professionals, accounting professionals, and staffing, the requisite staffing to support the financial and accounting processes and reporting. Is there an issue, first of all, in your estimation, that there's a scarcity, because it permeates everybody, all the municipality? Is there a scarcity of those professionals in Jamaica that's causing that, one? Or is it that the salaries in what the municipality is offering is not competitive enough to attract the professionals there? Or is it that the ministry just does not have the budget to give the municipalities to hire the professionals? What, in your estimation, as I said, there is that all the reports, all the municipalities are reporting that they have staffing issues in this area of the financial and accounting professionals to help them to advance, so that we don't see 95 and some having 15, 11 and so forth. What is the reason you would say?
Member, I want to respond very cautiously. Let me tell you why. A few years ago when we were in this house, the question came up, and we felt that from the observation, and some people said it in their exit interviews, that the compensation was low. However, we have had compensation adjustments, and we have also had structural adjustments to the organization. Still, and it's not just with the local authorities, we have seen, even in the ministry, you will employ persons and they don't stay. For example, the IT specialists, they may not stay a long time because these people are in demand internationally, I suppose. So they leave. And we have seen it with some of the professionals that even with the job offer that might be improved, they may not necessarily stay long. So I want to respond cautiously because it could be a combination of factors. What I do know now is that we have some improved levels. We're presently recruiting. The selection exercises are underway for some. Some are just advertising, some are about to advertise, and some that may have been approved before may be seeking approval to operate because they may not have operated for a while. But all in all, I would want to underscore that we have some improved levels, which means improved compensation, which means we expect to attract the level of professionalism that is needed, or professionals, let me not say professionalism, because you know that. So we expect to have that. And I looked at Member Gordon specifically and Member Hamilton, because they are coming out of the system, so they can relate to it and remember with first hand what I am saying.
Okay. Member Miller?
No, member, I'm just saying I just said I looked on you specifically because I know you can relate to what I'm saying. You and
Member Miller.
You mentioned about outsourcing as well as recruitment. Just clarify for me, what aspect were you referring to when you said outsourcing?
All right. So with respect to that specific question, sir, I believe each CEO would be better able to respond, seeing that it's their immediate activity or assignment.
Yeah. Member Gordon, you have another follow-up?
Thank you, Chairman. What's the relationship like with the ministry and the service commission? Because I know firsthand that references are made and interviews are done. Robert Hill would suffer whilst I was a councillor there with delay in getting adequate staffing on board. And his go-to thing was the service commission, the local government services commission. Is there any improvement in that area as it relates to recruiting? Is there any improvement in the salary compensation in spite of the adjustment? I'm still hearing that there are no takers because the salaries offered are still at a low level. So in order to attract the professional that we need to clear up this 95 outstanding report requires coordination between the ministry and the service commission and the municipal corporation. So I'm just wondering whether or not there is improvement in timely delivery when interviews are done and when staff are actually given a contract.
All right, so Member Gordon has raised some questions too that perhaps are better answered by the CEOs because of their daily interaction. But from where I sit, member, as the PS, we do have regular meetings with the chairman and to include the CEOs, and the challenges are underscored. The proposals to move forward are also looked at. As to the turnover and how quickly, I believe the CEOs are better able to respond to that, feel that that's their first-hand responsibility. And what I can say with respect to the compensation is that based on the levels that once existed, those have been upgraded, and where there were no posts available in some instances, because not all MCs have the same situation, those MCs received new posts.
Just a follow-up, Mr. Chairman. So, as it relates to persons who have been acting in a post for many, many years, and it is observed that they don't have the requisite qualification, but they continue to serve and act in that post. And I know with certainty that there is someone acting in a particular post at the KCMC for over 10 years. How do we allow that to continue in terms of staff morale, in terms of the own personal development of such an officer? How do we allow that to happen? I don't know.
Remember, that sounds like something I may have to investigate. But what I can say...
The CEO is right there.
I'm just making a note because you had addressed me, because I was going to say, but Mr. Hill, who is here, should perhaps be giving that response. But it does sound like something that will need some investigation.
Mr. Chairman, could we defer and ask Mr. Hill to respond?
Yeah.
All right, just on that, I was going to go around starting with you, Ms. Crosskill, but just on that specific point, Mr. Hill, if we can respond to that.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member Gordon. Just to clarify, you're speaking specifically of the... I won't call it.
No, you don't have to be specific.
The issue that I know that has been of interest to you for some time. As far as we are concerned, the new structure has been approved and has been implemented incrementally, meaning that the positions that have been assessed by the Services Commission, the official letters of appointment or recommendations for appointment are coming into the corporation on a gradual basis. The one in question of which you speak has not yet come. Representation in that regard has been made, and we expect that a favorable response will come from the Services Commission. I can only stop there for the moment, based on what I understand your question to be in particular to that situation, which you left at KSAMC.
All right, thank you. Ms. Crosskill, I'll ask you, representing the St. James Municipal Corporation, to indicate, and for each CEO, where you are in terms of your backlog, what you're doing to resolve it, what the outstanding issues are that remain. Just press your mic.
Good morning, members. Good morning, colleagues. All right, where we are in St. James, we had 6 accounts statements outstanding. Up to yesterday, we had submitted 3 of that 6, so we have 3 remaining.
Which years?
We submitted up to 2022.
Okay.
So the other 3 will be, we had written to our permanent secretary asking her to send a letter to Auditor General asking for an extension to July to complete, to submit up to 2025.
How have you cleared the backlog so far?
So, repeat?
How have you managed to clear your backlog?
We have outsourced, so we have gotten assistance by outsourcing. So that's how we are bringing it up to date. But a number of questions were asked, like, 1, what would give members the confidence that we will bring the accounts up to date? 1, almost all the local authorities are outsourcing to bring the financials up to date. 2, the PS would have spoken about the structure. The structure came into effect 2024, and on that structure, we were given the position of financial statement, somebody to do the final accounts.
The accounting professional to deal with that, yes.
As it relates to the salary, there's nothing we can do about the salary because you know that that's preset. So we can't do anything because it's government salary. Anybody can go on the internet and know what the salary is. So we can't do anything about that. But we have the structure, which we did not have before. So that's 1. As it relates to another member had spoken about the missing information. That is very important. Now, the Auditor General cannot do anything about that because they have to audit and present what they found. The Ministry of Finance is who I think need to guide us how we move forward with the opening balances that will forever not allow us to not have a qualified accounts. So as long as those opening balances are not addressed, the Auditor General will never be able to give us an unqualified account. It will always have a qualification because the opening balances are not verified. And so, as was said, and it is not verified because of the missing documents. So, for example, in St. James, what had caused the documents to be missing was that the server went down, and so what was there could not be verified, and some of the documents went missing. You would have also remember, for example, with St. Anne, the Auditor General had said that she was recommending a $1 billion surcharge, which I believe that was an abuse.
1 billion?
That was an abuse of power, I believe, but...
No, hold on.
But...
$1 billion, you sure that's accurate though?
Yes, I'm correct, it was in the papers. But the reason for that was that...
$1 billion?
Yes,
I don't think that could be accurate at all. Because a surcharge is to a specific individual.
Yes,
so
it was to the CEO. And it was because of the missing documents, the same thing, it could not be, but the documents weren't really, they were damaged. So the documents were there, but they were damaged because we have storage problem. And we do a lot of things manually. So we don't store documents electronically. The documents are stored manually. Documents are stored like in a container, in a room. So you will have insects that will damage it. You have the elements like water, Like, you know, we just went through Melissa and Beryl and all of that. So those are the kind of issues that the council have. We don't have the financial capacity to convert these documents into electronic documents. So those are the kind of issues that we face, because if you look on all our budget and what is required of us, we don't have the financial capacity to do all the things that are required to put us in a very efficient manner and to make sure that everything that is to be reproduced, that at some point they are not damaged, whether by water, insect, all of those things. And an electronic form would be the best way. So any kind of support that can be given to help us to get us our document in an electronic format, that would help greatly. But I would say that the municipal corporation will not be here next year, and the municipal corporations will not be here next year talking about 90-odd financial statement. We might be here talking about 10, but I'm sure we'll not be here talking about that, because we are putting things in place to get the statements up to date, and we are employing the final accounts person to continue after we would have left off. What we will be coming here is about IPSAS. Now, that's a requirement under the law, and again, Ministry of Finance plays a role there. So the committee that the PS spoke about, they are trying to get all of that sorted out. But until that is sorted out, what we are producing is really modified IPSAS, not fully accrual. So we need to have the IPSAS sorted out, and we need to have the opening balances for Ministry of Finance to give us some guidance as to how we resolve the opening balances problem. But we are outsourcing to get them up to date, and we are employing. So that, I would say, what would give the member confidence that come next year there will be improvement, except for, as I said, the opening balances and the IPSAS. And for St. James, for sure, we will not be here next year talking about outstanding statements, only maybe about the implementation of accrual IPSAS.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Croskill. Mrs. Blake, could I ask you on the issue raised of missing documents and how they treat with opening balances, if you could provide guidance there? And secondly, what are the standards across the public sector in terms of how documents, financial documents, should be stored, preserved, etc., for accounting purposes? If you could help us there.
I'm going to ask Mr. Thomas, who is closer to this.
Morning all. As it relates to missing documents, I'll speak at two fronts, because we have to recognize that the laws that governs the entities are different. We have the Financial Administration and Audit Act, which generally guides ministries, department, agencies. We then have the Local Government Finance and Financial Management Act, which is specific to the local authorities. And as such, the first thing we'll have to do is to go through the provisions of that law to identify what is the requirement. What is the requirement for dealing with missing documents in that law? In the FAA Act, it is required that all missing vouchers or documents.
I think your mic a little muffled. Try the other one.
Thanks, Chair.
Yeah.
Yes. So in the FAA Act, it is required that all missing vouchers or documents be reported to the Auditor General's Department. And in reviewing the statements, the Auditor General's Department will make a decision in terms of whether it is satisfied in terms of the cause and effects of those missing documents. And what Auditor General rightly does, provide a statement in terms of whether or not they are unable to give proper opinion on the statement. Now, once that opinion or non-opinion is given, the accounts is considered as being reviewed. And as such, the next step is that is the, overcoming the missing documents. Now, the impact of that is now coming up with a true and fair opening balance. As our team member from St. James would have mentioned, the opening balance. Now, that is a case-by-case issue, as there will be varying levels of approach to take. The first thing is to look at what is the provision of the standard. We have to review this international public sector accounting standard to see what the provisions are to coming up with opening balance, as it is not a legislative matter. So as such, each entity or each municipal corporation will have to make a submission to outline what are the issues, the impacts on the financial statement, and to seek individual guidance to agree with what will be considered as an opening balance. It will not be a Ministry of Finance's guideline. It would be a recommendation to the Ministry of Finance based on the standard which is guiding their accounts. And the Ministry of Finance will provide the relevant guidance where that is concerned. So, it's a process and not just, it couldn't be a one quote or one brush fit all. It must be on a case by case basis, taking into consideration the legislative requirement and the standard that guides the accounts.
Thank you. Member Brown first, and then Member God. Remember, we want to go around to all the corporations.
Yes, I just want to thank the CEO from the St. James municipality for indicating that, soon and very soon, you would have completed all the outstanding financial statements. But Chairman, I am a little bit, because I don't know if if we should just be accepting, because I hear advance, rainwater, insects, cockroach, the records just walking out. You didn't say that, but the records, and as I said earlier, it is something that is permeating. So I may not comment again on this issue, but, and I hear the ministry's response, and I understand the Auditor General's role, but the missing documents issue is impacting the Auditor General from effectively undertaking their responsibilities to report on the proper management of the financial resources of the municipalities. So it is not it is a real issue that needs to be discussed and for us to understand, certainly myself. What are the options? And probably Mr. McAdam can assist me here. What are the options when you see persistent advancement of missing documents, which clearly cannot allow you to carry through your responsibilities? What's next? What's next? Because it is, as I said, it permeates right throughout. The records seem to just be walking out. And yes, I hear the storage. Yes, I hear the water. Yes, I hear the rain. Yes, I hear the insects, and I hear the fire. But I'm not sure if that can be continuously accepted as a reason for us not having the Auditor General being able to conduct their functions as it relates to auditing of the records.
All right, I just want to, 1 second, Ms. Cosgrove. Let me just take the questions. I see Member Gordon Bunting and then Member Frank. So let me just take those, and then, all right, you're next, Member Bunting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question was similar to the one from Member Brown. It's clear that we'll never clear up the backlog unless the Auditor General qualifies. So I believe that's the term they would use in the private sector. I don't know if a similar term would be used, but issues qualified accounts so that we can move on. And I assume that, the missing vouchers and the docs would have to be material. It wouldn't be just one incidental thing. It would have to be material to the statements. But when these cases occur, what are the sanctions for for the officers, for the accounting officers at the various municipal corporations? That's the first question. The second has to do with the issue mentioned by the gentleman, I think from the Ministry of Finance, about trying to determine the opening balances. When you have these qualified accounts, then how do you start the succeeding financial year? But I just want to clarify, up to this point, isn't the local government, the municipal corporations, on a cash accounting basis? And therefore, wouldn't it be essentially use the bank accounts to reconcile to determine what the opening balances would be, since you're up to now? Because the mention was made of moving to an accrual accounting system, which I think central government has moved to already. But you can confirm for me whether local government, the municipal corporations, are still on a cash accounting basis, and whether that might make it easier to determine opening balances. The other explanations, let me say, about the document storage problems, if we weren't so far behind, in a sense, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? If you didn't have to store 10 years or more of documents, you wouldn't have such a major document storage problem. But I do acknowledge the determination that the representative from St. James Municipal Corporation has to bring things up to date. But whether physical, whether manual or electronic, the fact that you have so many years of backlog is going to make you much more vulnerable to whether document deterioration in physical format, or, as you said, the server goes down, and then with so many years to reconstruct, it's virtually impossible. So those are my comments.
All right, before I go to Member Gordon or Frank, I just want to deal with those two issues. And Ms. Coskrell, the issues are not specific to St. James. They go across the board. So, P.S., I'm coming back to you because the issue of missing documents and the inability to retrieve from an accountability perspective from the ministry, how the ministry deals with that if you have persistent year-on-year issues of just inability to find documents, how you distinguish between what may be genuine acts of God versus other reasons that may contribute to it. What is the ministry's accountability role from that perspective?
Chairman, I'm not sure I understand the question correctly.
What I'm saying is, all right, let me just break it down.
Yes.
If a particular municipal corporation consistently has 5-10 years, just can't find documents, does the ministry determine whether it was the hurricane that caused it or some other means? Where is the accountability to say, all right, we have done an investigation and we know it was caused by an act of God? Or we did an investigation and the explanations are not satisfactory and we hold in XYZ to account. That's because you have that oversight responsibility. So that's really where I'm going.
Okay, Chairman. So as I had indicated before, when Member Brown spoke, that there is a responsibility to report the loss. That's number one. And the ministry consistently reminds the MCs of that. And whenever it is reported to us the way it ought to be reported, we in turn also advise the financial secretary, which is where I believe Ms. Coskrell was going. So what I hear coming out of this conversation is perhaps having had the reports of the documentation being missing, perhaps we need to engage, and will engage the Ministry of Finance outside of the steering committee just to treat with the matter, because they would have been reporting. I don't know that there's any MC who has not formally reported the missing documentation, and we will pursue that conversation with the Ministry of Finance because that's what the regulations call.
And let me just, from a process perspective, once you receive a report that, a year or two, they just can't find the documentation, what is the action of the ministry? I know you are obligated to report that to the Auditor General, but does the ministry itself conduct an assessment investigation to determine whether what has been told to you is actually verified?
Yes. So, it depends on the reason why they say there's a loss. So in some instances, well, in most instances, it is legitimately due to an act of God or an event. Where we believe it is due to bad storage, then we make the recommendations as to what you need to do and to give you the support if we're able to do that. We have seen cases just recently too, even with the passing of Hurricane Melissa, where we would have had to intervene and take the necessary actions that need to be taken to preserve records, for example, in St. Elizabeth. So we do intervene.
All right. Member Gunn, then Member Whittle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm challenged to appreciate the response from the personnel from the Ministry of Finance. Why? He made reference to 2 acts. And implicit, he's saying that there's no standard. But the acts speak explicitly to how you treat. So am I then to believe that each municipal corporation operates on its own without any standard? I am challenged to accept that. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, how then do the Auditor General's department accept an opening balance if there is no standard? So again, I am grappling with how the process works. And I am most concerned about the reference to the acts, because I understand and I know the act inside out. So again, I'm asking for clarification from the personnel from the Ministry of Finance as it relates to absence of any standard.
Mr. Barrington, you want to, or Ms. Blake?
Thanks for that question. I'm trying to understand the question fully, because I would have stated that the matters will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, because missing records is not the same reason for a missing record in entity A, is not the same reason for missing record in entity B. And as such, we couldn't broad brush a recommendation or a treatment for A and B. The instances must be reported in detail so we can assess the implication or impact of what caused these missing records. That's one. 2, the local authorities, they are guided by the Local Government Financing and Financial Management Act. And as such, the first place to look at, the first place the ministry would look at when the report comes are the provisions of the Act, in terms of, does the Act outline a treatment where missing records are found? If the Act doesn't fully deals with the matter, then we have to look at the standard which guides the municipality. And that standard, based on Section 7 of the Local Government Financing and Financial Management Act, it stipulates that the standard is the International Public Sector Accounting Standard, and specific, the accrual. So we'll have to score that standard in providing the response as to how to treat with that opening balance based on 1, the law, 2, the standard, and then the ministry will make a recommendation on a case-by-case basis.
I am happy that you reference that there is a standard, but I'm still not understanding what you said, because explicit in the Act, as explained by you, there's a standard and there's a treatment, and you're saying that each municipality would have a different approach based on their own situation. I am not even going there. What I'm simply saying, that the standard must be implemented as it relates to missing accounts and how you come by an opening balance. And I'm still not appreciating how the Auditor General then could flag a municipal corporation and then say that you give a disclaimer and not qualify the account. In my 20-odd years of practice, I've never heard where a disclaimer is given and the account is not qualified. So I am at school, I'm learning something different this morning. But I would love to have that explanation as to why a disclaimer can be issued and the account is not qualified. So it is for you to clarify and for the Auditor General to explain how.
All right, I'm going to ask the Auditor General, but Frank has been waiting for a long time. Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your last observation will have dealt with one of the points I want to make. So I just want to add though that listen to the question that we are asking now. I think most of the answers will rest with the CEOs, because we keep asking about, missing documents. And I think they are the ones who would have been in charge of these documents, the CEOs for the municipal corporation. And therefore, I think we should focus our effort now in terms of our discussions and hearing from the CEOs. And I think that will put us in a better position to be able to understand the realities of what it really would have happened in respect to the municipal corporations and the issue of what we're discussing mainly now, missing documents and so on. So I really believe we should move into getting the report from the individual corporations, and that will put us in a better position to be able to understand the realities and being able to even push more questions if necessary.
All right. Every municipal corporation will get an opportunity. Members just had some questions, which is why I took those questions. But Mr. McAdam, could you just respond to the last point that was raised by Member Gordon?
Thank you, Chair. I believe there is a little bit of confusion here. The disclaimers are actually a form of qualification. So the reports, the disclaimers are one type of qualified opinion. So the reports were indeed qualified, but the form of qualification was a disclaimer.
All right. I'm going to, I can't identify your name, but I'm going to ask you to just indicate name and the corporation, and the same questions. Where are you in terms of your outstanding financial statements and the issues that you may have and how you're dealing with them?
Morning, Chairman. Morning, members. Morning, colleagues. Jennifer Brown Cunningham, CEO, St. Anne Municipal Corporation. Of all my colleagues, I think my corporation is the worst of us all. But the last year, we were here in January of 2025. The entire year of 2025, St. Anne took a proactive approach to how it is that we are going to address the issues that we have. Internally, we were able to submit 1 year. We submitted the year 9-10 to the Auditor General last year. In that time, knowing all of what we are talking about, the availability of records, staffing not being available, all of those challenges, we started from scratch. We pulled every single record that was available from our storage, the strong room, and we are now in a position where we have packed everything according to our financial years. Having done that, we also went to procurement, and we were able to complete with a vendor, and we now have a firm in place to complete the first phase, because what we have done is to cut the years in phases. So the first 5 years is what this company is going to be dealing with.
So that would be what, 2010 to 15?
From 10-11 to 15, yes, Chairman. So that is on the way. We have also had dialogue with the Services Commission, and they are actively assisting the process. We put out advertisements, and I do believe last month, the interviews were done. So I am now awaiting a response, and hopefully they were able to find an individual suitable to take on that position. So, Chairman, what we are working on, we are moving everything together. We are not putting them in silos. We are putting the issues and hoping everything will come together. Because as Ms. Crossgill said, I don't want this to be a perennial issue where every January, every year, we are appearing before the PAC and we are just not moving. So we have taken a proactive approach over the last year to put things in place to ensure that we are in a position to complete as many of the statements as humanly possible within a particular space and time. My report would have said, even yesterday I said to PS, I'm being as conservative as I can be. I've asked for 3 years to complete our statements and be up to date. I'm hoping I'll be able to do it before that, Chairman, but I don't want to be overly enthusiastic thinking I will, because there could be challenges within. As you are aware, yes, as Member Bunting said, part of the challenge is the number of years. My capacity to store 15 years of records when there are some months when St. Anne have as many as 20 batches of vouchers based on the number of transactions that would have happened in a particular month. And so you can just imagine, Chairman, if we are to hold those records for 15 years, what we are looking at. One of the things too, even Melissa has impacted us, because what we have found out is that the strong room is not a strong room. It is, the roof is actually collapsing. So at this point, we are making arrangements to move all of those records, because since Melissa, some of them have since gotten wet, and we have since sent off a correspondence to say these records have been defaced.
Can I ask just a question on the how you treat with records as you, I know you're still dealing with physical records. Is there a process where once you have, whether it's a voucher, invoice, whatever, that is uploaded to something, some system, or do you?
Not at this
Not
time,
at this
Chairman.
point.
Everything is still
Still manually.
Still paper-based. Not at this time. So, as we did last year, we made a concerted effort this year, Chairman, to put a number of things in place so that as time goes on, we will be able to meet our legal obligations and have all the statements up to date.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to pick up down there. Just identify yourself and the municipal. Oh, sorry, member, 1 second. Member Miller.
Just curious, is the CEO the same for the last 15 years?
Matter of fact, Chairman made a statement earlier. You work hard, you are sent somewhere to ensure. When I left Portland, I only had 3 years outstanding. And I came to St. Anne and found 15 years.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Good morning again. Ethelyn Douglas from the St. Mary Municipal Corporation. In the last financial year, we have submitted for 2015-2016. At present, the Auditor General is auditing our 2016-2017. So at this point, we have 8 statements outstanding. Some of the issues that we have found, as you said, is the same as in the other corporations. We have an extremely high turnover in our accounting department. The source documents cannot be located because historically of how they have been stored. The previous statements were also very manual. We have conservatively stated that we will complete all our outstanding by December of this year, because we are now at the point of 2017 that we started to use an accounting software. Thus, we theorize it will be quicker to compile and submit. We have also looked at the dedicated staff. who will be used to compile these statements. And we believe with that and the liaison with our contractor, because we have sourced a contractor to assist us with that, it will be quicker to compile this specific task rather than it being done within the normal day-to-day duties of an officer of the corporation in the accounting department. We have also looked at our storage, and how that was done, and to properly carry out some acquisition of storage equipment to properly batch, as Mrs. Cunningham stated earlier, to batch those records in the respective years that we have outstanding, so that it will be easier to source when we get to those years. We have made proposals to the Local Government Services Commission in relation to the posts for the accounting department, and we have verbally advised that the interviews have been conducted, and as soon as those decisions have been taken, we'll be advised as to the filling of our posts. So we have been actively working internally and with our Services Commission to get our posts filled.
All right, thank you. Next one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Philwa Richards, CFO at the Manchester Municipal Corporation. Mr. Chairman, we are currently outstanding with our 24-25 statements.
You got a nice wicket to bat on. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have had an issue with a key member of our team. So we are trying to replace someone for that position, Mr. Chairman, and we are hoping by the end of the financial year we should be on target in terms of our submission. Just to state as well that we would have had issues in terms of with our records, because for a number of years we are getting the qualified statements, and even at this point we have that struggle because of our opening balances. So that is a real issue, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. You could just release your mic. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Still morning.
Oh, good morning, everyone. All right, so I'm not going to be long. As for...
Sorry, just name and the corporation, please.
Marvelyn Pitter, St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, CEO. As it relates to St. Catherine, amidst the challenges that we are experiencing where some of our documents were taken by MOCA, we are currently at 2021, and we are currently also doing 2021 because we have a member of staff that was in another department, and we recognize that that person has finance background. So she's currently doing the statements. So we should be able to submit 2021 by June 2026, right? We also have written to the Services Commission for the position of the Director of Final Account. That person would be responsible for doing the financial statements. This is our second time writing to them, and I had discussions this week wherein we will be getting the letter to advertise the position. So we will be able to, at least once they have done their interviews, we will be able to have those persons on board to really assist us in going forward. We too have challenges with our records, as I mentioned before, with MOCA, and then issues regarding, termite infestation, but we are still working hard to get the statements out. We have set some timeline, and we are hoping that we will be able to even, produce those documents before those timelines.
Okay, thank you. Next municipal corporation. Is that coming down the line? Says.
Thank you, Chairman. The issues in terms of how we have attempted to manage the difficulties have been well explained, Chairman. So what I do, Chairman, is to go through what...
Just identify yourself. Most of us...
Chairman. Robert Hill, CEO, Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. I'm joined by our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Kevin Blair. we would have been stymied and had difficulties facing the retention of talent and employment, and that would have been already expressed, Chairman. We did have also some issues with our records, and we have since rectified those matters. We have outsourced the services of a professional accounting firm, Mundell Assurance Services, to bring our records up to date, and we have therefore set out a project timeline to bring these up to date, which I will now state to you and the committee, Chairman. By the end of March 2026, that is the end of this month, we will have the years 2016 and 2017, 2017 and 2018 submitted. By September of this year, we'll have 2018, 19 and 19, 20 submitted. By April of 2027, or hopefully before, we will have completed 2021 and 2022. And by September 2027, we'll have 2022, 23, 23, 24, as also will be current with the other statements by that time, and that time with our relationship with the accounting firm would be completed, Chairman. So that is where we are.
Thank you. Before I go to my colleague who used to be in Manchester, PS, is it that you receive from each municipal corporation a schedule as to the time frame for when they'll bring their accounts up to date?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay. What I would ask for the purposes of the committee, is it in the document?
Yes, so it's represented in the document submitted.
Okay.
And we also have a spreadsheet with it, but if you want the individual submissions, those could be
Well, I think what we'd benefit from is a summary.
Right, so it's in the document.
It's in there,
so
okay.
For example, Hanover gave 2 years, St. Catherine 1 year, 10 months.
Okay.
And there are some more details there.
Okay.
You find it hard to read, sir? Next time you put it on full.
All right. I don't remember your name, but you are at Manchester and now you're in Trelawney.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Harris, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Trelawney Municipal Corporation. Just took up the position, I think about November of last.
Bring the mic a little closer to you so you can hear.
Yeah, just started that position in about November of last year. Nevertheless, the Trelawney Municipal Corporation would have submitted up to 2020, 2021 to the Auditor General. So we have 4 financial statements that is outstanding, and that is from 2022 to 2025. 2021, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25. Those are the 4 that is outstanding. The challenges that we have is probably similar to most of what has been said before. Ours is, however, coupled with the situation where we have been working with a software that is some 25 years in existence, and it's no longer supported by the software provider.
I didn't know there was any software that is 25 years old that still operates.
Well, and that is one of our challenges. Also, in addition to that, we would have actually been severely impacted by Melissa. As a matter of fact, our administrative building was completely devastated, and our server room was devastated. Fortunately for us, we have identified a location, and the Ministry of Local, the permanent secretary has been gracious enough to tell us that by next month we will be getting the resources for getting that server up to date. We, however, envision that having basically gotten those things in place, that we will be able to complete 21, 22, and 22, 23 by the end of this financial, at the end of 25, 26, and the other 2 years, 23, 24, and 24, 25, by the period, the end of 2027. So that is where we are at.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Chairman. It's David Gardner, CEO of the Hanover Municipal Corporation. All right. The Hanover Municipal Corporation presently has 6 outstanding statements. We had started by way of outsourcing earlier, so we were making very good progress since we had gotten to this point. However, we had suffered in terms of our system, a system failure, which resulted in the loss of critical data. Basically, we had taken steps to try to see if the data could be recovered and the system could be restored. Unfortunately, based on the assessment that we have received, it would not be prudent to try restoration. I have been in dialogue with our permanent secretary, and she has...
Can I ask you, how many years were lost in the system that you can't get back?
Well, it would have been since 2019, 2020. That's where we were at the time when it... Well,
So everything from there coming
yes,
to present?
Right. So, in dialogue with our permanent secretary, we have agreed that the ERP system which the ministry is acquiring, which will come on stream very shortly, that Hanover will be certainly included in it. And it's our objective, Chairman, to complete the outstanding statements, contingent, of course, on the arrangement with the ministry within the next 2 years. We have put 2 years because it's somewhat out of our hands in terms of the system being put into effect by the ministry. But we are confident that once the system is in place, we should be able to get the work done.
So you have all your physical records, even though the
As far as we
system...
are aware, the records should be available. As far as we are aware, what we have done, we have gone in terms of our strong room to ensure that prior records were removed and the ones that were outstanding were placed in there. So we are expecting that everything should be okay where that is concerned.
Okay. Thank you. Next, please.
All right, Kevin Makindo, St. Thomas Municipal Corporation. Currently, we are 10 years outstanding, but I'll explain that the Auditor General has asked us to revise 2013, 2014, and 2014, 2015 based on the audit of 2012, 2013. We lost some time there because we had to be back and forth to resolve that matter. I would say that as at yesterday, 2013-14 was resubmitted, and the schedule we have working on now is to submit a year per month, and that should take us to end of year.
A year per month, so by the end of... You say you have about, what, 12 years outstanding,
right? So I'm saying that by end of calendar year, St. Thomas submitting 1 year per month, because the reality is the schedules have already been done, but we could not progress because the closing balance for 2012-13 had to be confirmed in order to get the opening balance for the next year. So we have submitted that yesterday. So if there are no problems, we should have the opening balance for the subsequent year, and we'll be able to...
And you have all your physical records. Have you outsourced this?
Yes. We have gone that route as well.
Okay.
And we are also pursuing hiring a director of final accounts so we can have that talent internally to continue to be compliant.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I have a question. Member Heather Miller?
This question is actually for the PS because quite a few corporations I've heard indicated that they are outsourcing. How has this impacted your budget?
There's members. So each local authority has their budgets because, you know, they are body corporate, they are autonomous, so they develop their own budget. So their budget is not the ministry's budget per se, although we consider their needs based on their representation to us. They can explain it more.
So I'll ask one of those corporations, how has this impacted your overall budget? Because you have staff in place doing this, or they're supposed to be doing this, but you're outsourcing. So how has it impacted your budget? I think St. Mary did say they outsourced. KSAMC outsourced as well. So either can respond.
I think most of them are outsourcing now because I think they recognize the internal capacity is just not there. But you want to answer?
Chairman, if I may, you have basically answered the question, Chairman. We would have broached the issue before about the retention of talent. As also, even when the structure would have been approved and the compensations would have been revised and updated, the market has shown that there is disinterest generally in professionals taking up these positions. Competitively, they have been brought closer to market, to private sector offerings, but it is, and for our own experience, and Member God will remember this, there are several times that particular positions were advertised through the approval of the Services Commission, and there was little to no interest. They could not find a candidate. And so even with this, I would consider it a savings because what we would have spent on salaries and compensations, we have now used in a more instrumental, impactful way to get these records up to date and ensure that we do not fall back. And by that time, we are still actively looking for the talent. We are supported by the Services Commission and the Ministry in this endeavor to have this done. So we would, again, in agreeing with the sentiments of Ms. Croskill from St. James, we are not to be in this position come next year.
Ms. Croskill, all right. Hold on. You wanted to add to that, or?
For organization, you look at what is required of you.
Just speak closer to the mic. Just speak
I'm
closer.
saying, like with every organization, you look at what is required legally. And what is required of us legally is to provide these reports. And so we make the budgetary preparation. Also, it's not like we're outsourcing while we have the staff. These reports are coming back from, as you said, 10 years, 6 years, 15 years. So we had these reports before the new structure was in place. We've been having these issues where we were not able to attract the requisite personnel to do it. So we decided that to get it up to date, what we do is to outsource. By then, after we would have brought it up to date, then with the new structure, we'd hire the staff now to continue the process so we do not reach back to the stage that we are coming from. So we made the budgetary preparation for it. So yes, when you pay something, it means you have to forego something. But this is an important part of what we have to do, and it is a legal requirement, and so we have to make the budgetary accommodation for it. And what I'd want to say earlier too was that in terms of missing record, we shouldn't have that problem going forward because once the accounts are up to date, then we would have more frequent audits. So we wouldn't be having audits going back 15 years to have the missing records problem. We have that was perennial because of how far the audit goes back. So going forward, also that problem should be solved because the accounts would be up to date.
All right, that's Member Brown, then Member Gordon.
I think the issue that Member Miller was trying to get at is you would have made a provision in terms of the outsourcing. So you would have made a provision in terms of your P&L as it relates to compensation for your staff, right? So what I think she's trying to understand, and I would also like to understand, is if the outsourcing, if you would have been under strain in terms of your third-party costs on your P&L because you would have already budgeted for that. So because, several of the municipalities are saying outsourcing. These are not cheap costs, right? So it's just to understand, we appreciate and are happy with that measure to bring everything up to current, but just to understand if that is putting a strain on your overall budget in terms of that additional cost, which may not have been previously budgeted PFO. Yeah.
Oh. Well, we would have made an allocation in our budget, seeing that we would
Just
need
indicate your
personnel.
name.
My name
sir.
is Kevin Blair, CFO, KSAMC. We would have made arrangements to have that allocation in our budget to meet that need, seeing that the need was so demanding, and we need to get this information out as quick as possible. So it is within our budget each year.
All right. Thanks.
Member Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, the provision made is done from your own source, or is it a collective effort between the ministry and yourself? Or just your outsource? Your own source, not outsource, your own source. Okay. Am I then to believe, Madam Permanent Secretary, that an important issue such as this does not get the support of the ministry in terms of reallocating funds to support that? Because I can tell you, based on my own experience, that each corporation will be under significant pressure to use their own source to finance such an important or critical issue. So again, I am asking whether or not there's any consideration from the ministry to find resources to assist in that regard.
PS, you want to take that?
Yes, so Chairman and members, the ministry support to the MCs is consistent with the requirements for the MC. I put it in that context to say that where the MCs have indicated they need support for monthly salaries and fortnightly pay, we do the necessary representation so that that is made. What is anticipated from that is where savings are realized, which is what the CEOs are speaking to, the other activities that they need to pursue, that they would so pursue, because there is no single budget line that's going to be for outsourcing. But there is a budget line for compensation and fortnightly pay, etc. So it's just a matter of being creative with your managing your budget in order to do the other activities that you need to do.
All right, Member Miller. All right, in future, just keep on your mic, because once you release it, it goes automatically to the next person.
Yes, I'm still asking if there's any provision.
Not specifically for outsourcing, that's what I'm saying, because there's no budget line for that, sir. For example, you would not find a budget line in the, what you call that, your template that you use, you would find a budget line for that. That would be some other activity that has to go through a process, as you know, locally. However, where we support or would support is where there's an established budget line, such as compensation for monthly salaries fortnightly. Of course, if we are doing that for you, you are recognizing a saving. So the creativity in that is that where we make the support available to you, you in turn would have to reallocate locally, because remember, the local authority's budget is not our budget based on your act, the law. It's yours to manage. But where we can support, for example, compensation, whether it be monthly or fortnightly, homelessness, so we support in terms of, well, those areas, and specifically we do, in this case, we have specific provision for the IT support in respect of the computers, ERP, etc. And you know that the MCs, if they so desire to have additional support, that representation can be made directly to the ministry for consideration. For the record, no local authorities have indicated that they would need support for outsourcing, which means my interpretation that based on the support we have provided in the many other areas, they have found the savings to implement accordingly.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Member Miller.
this question is for the CEO, Hanover Municipal Corporation. You mentioned about storage, that you have all your records. In terms of protection from rain and damage, because I know very recently you had flooding, in terms of your records, what do you have in place to ensure that you're not exposed to those elements?
Thank you, member, for that question. Thank you, Chairman. All right, the building that we have presently is one that leaks, especially when it rains. So what we have had to be doing, we have had to be continuing with the covering of the different equipment we have, etc. So there are times when, for days and sometimes weeks, especially if the weather, which we know can be unpredictable, is on, we have to keep the covers on for as long as possible. So for the time being, that is what we have had to be doing.
So do you have plans to relocate? Because that building, I know, requires some attention, or as a matter of fact, well, let me know.
Okay, thanks again. We have identified
openly and financial discipline over time.